I exposed him without raising my voice. And what happened after that is a part no one talks about. Because I always thought if I ever saw the truth clearly, I would leave immediately. No hesitation, no confusion. That's what everyone says, right? When you know, you leave. But that's not what happened to me. I knew, and I stayed. And that's where everything started to feel wrong. Because it didn't happen in some big moment. No fight, no explosion, no dramatic ending. It happened in something much quieter. A question, just one. And I didn't even plan it. I didn't wake up thinking, today I'm going to confront him. I wasn't trying to be strong. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just exhausted. Not angry, not emotional, just tired. Tired of conversations that went in circles. Tired of explaining myself over and over again. Tired of leaving every interaction feeling confused. Like I missed something. Like somehow it always turned back on me. And for the first time, instead of trying to fix it, I stopped. And I asked something simple. No tone, no accusation, no emotion, just a question. And the moment I said it, everything shifted. Not in him, in the atmosphere, in the silence, in the way he looked at me. Because for a second, he didn't know what to do. And I remember noticing that pause, that hesitation, that break in his usual control. And I didn't understand it yet. I just felt it. Something was different because I wasn't playing the role anymore. I wasn't explaining. I wasn't defending. I wasn't overthinking. I was just present. And that's when I said it. Why does it never feel like your responsibility? Silence. Not the kind of silence where someone is thinking. The kind of silence where something just got exposed. And then it started. Fast. Almost automatic. First, defensiveness. You're always trying to blame me. Then, reversal. This is exactly what you do. Then, confusion. You're overthinking again. And I remember sitting there, watching it happen and thinking, this doesn't make sense. Because I wasn't attacking him, but he was reacting like I had just hit something deep. And that's when something clicked. Not loudly, not all at once, just clearly. He wasn't reacting to the question, he was reacting to what the question revealed. And that realization, it changes everything. Because in that moment, I saw something I couldn't unsee. He didn't fear arguments. He didn't fear conflict. He didn't fear losing me. He feared being seen. Because as long as I was confused, as long as I was explaining, as long as I was trying to fix things, he was safe. But the moment I stopped and I looked at him with clarity, something broke. Not the relationship, the illusion. Because for the first time, I wasn't participating anymore. I wasn't trying to understand him. I was seeing him. And that's different. That's dangerous. Because when you see clearly, you stop reacting the way they expect. You stop explaining things that don't need explanation. You stop justifying yourself. You stop chasing clarity from someone who avoids it. And I didn't realize it yet, but that moment wasn't about him. It was about me. Because his reaction told me everything I had been ignoring for a long time. I had been listening to words, to explanations, to promises, to it'll be different. But behavior never lies. And his reaction wasn't calm. It wasn't open. It wasn't reflective. It was defensive, avoidant, uncomfortable. Like someone who just got too close to the truth. And that's when I started noticing things that were always there. But I kept minimizing the way he twisted conversations, the way I always ended up apologizing, the way I questioned my own memory, my own feelings, my own reality. And the worst part, I thought that was normal. I thought that's what relationships were. Hard, complicated, something you had to work through. That love meant trying harder, giving more, being more patient. But there's a difference between building something together and carrying something alone. And I was carrying everything: the communication, the emotional weight, the connection, and still feeling like it wasn't enough. And that question, it cracked something open. And what scared me the most wasn't his reaction, it was mine. Because I didn't feel shocked, I didn't feel surprised. I felt familiar, like I had seen this before. Not the exact moment, but the pattern, the way everything turned, the way I suddenly became the problem, the way the focus shifted away from the question and onto me. And that's when I realized something even more uncomfortable. This wasn't the first time. I had been here before. Different conversations, same ending, different situations, same confusion. And somehow, I always walked away thinking I needed to explain myself better. That maybe I didn't say it right. Maybe I was too emotional. Maybe I should have been calmer, clearer, more understanding. And that thought alone kept me stuck longer than anything else. Because every time I believed that, I went back into the same cycle, back into trying to fix something that never changed. And I didn't see it as manipulation. I saw it as effort, as patience, as love. But there's a moment where effort stops being healthy and starts becoming self-abandonment. And I crossed that line without even noticing. Because it didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly, in small decisions, in moments where I stayed quiet instead of speaking up, in moments where I ignored something that didn't feel right, in moments where I chose peace over truth. And those moments, they don't feel big at the time. They feel small, insignificant, easy to justify, but they add up until one day, you don't even recognize what you're tolerating anymore. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because now, you're not reacting to reality. You're adapting to it. You're adjusting yourself to fit something that keeps hurting you and calling it normal, calling it just how things are. And I did that more than I want to admit. I adjusted my tone, my words, my reactions. I started thinking twice before saying anything, not because I was careful, but because I was afraid of how it would turn back on me. And that's not love, that's conditioning. Because real connection doesn't make you feel like you have to calculate everything you say. It doesn't make you feel like you're constantly walking on something fragile. It doesn't make you question your own reality. But I didn't see that yet. Not fully, because part of me was still holding on to the moments that felt good, the moments where everything seemed normal, where he was present, where things felt easy. And those moments, they were just enough to make me doubt myself again, just enough to make me think, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe it's not that bad, maybe it can still work, and that maybe is one of the most dangerous places to live. Because it keeps you in between, not fully in, not fully out, just stuck. And I lived there for a long time, in that space where I saw things clearly, but still wasn't ready to act on it. And that's exhausting, because now you're not just dealing with the situation, you're dealing with yourself, with the part of you that sees the truth, and the part of you that still wants to stay. And those two parts don't agree. One says, this isn't right. The other says, but what if it changes? One says, you deserve more. The other says, what if this is all you get? And that internal conflict, it drains you because no matter what you choose, it feels like you're losing something. And I wasn't ready to lose what I believed this could be. Not yet. Because I stopped asking, what's wrong with him? And I started asking, why am I accepting this? And that question is different because now there's nowhere to hide. Now it's not about him anymore. It's about you, your patterns, your silence, the things you tolerate. Just keep things stable. And I realized something I didn't want to admit. I wasn't just confused, I was adapting to inconsistency, to distance, to emotional gaps, and calling it love because it felt safer than facing the truth that this was never going to become what I hoped it would be. And that realization, it doesn't come with relief, it comes with weight. Because once you see it, you can't go back. You notice everything. The avoidance, the manipulation, the lack of accountability, and suddenly what felt confusing before feels clear, not comforting, but clear. And clarity is uncomfortable because now you have a choice. You can't pretend anymore. You can't say, maybe I'm overthinking. You know, and knowing changes everything because now the question becomes, if I see all of this, why am I still here? And that question isn't easy because leaving isn't just about walking away from a person. It's about letting go of a version, the future you imagined, the potential you believed in, the idea that one day it would all make sense. And letting go of that feels like losing something real, even when it never fully existed. So sometimes you don't leave right away. You stay, but something changes. You become aware, less reactive, less invested, less willing to ignore things. And that's where the real shift begins. Not outside, inside. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing answers. You stop trying to fix something that isn't yours to fix. And for the first time, you start choosing yourself. Not perfectly, not all at once, but enough. Enough to feel it. Enough to notice that something is different. And once that shift happens, you can't go back. Because now, it's not about them anymore. It's about you. What you feel, what you tolerate, what you're no longer willing to carry. And that's when staying starts to feel heavier than leaving. And if you've ever asked a simple question and watched someone react instead of reflect, then you already know exactly what that means. And once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. Because now, it's not about them. It's about you. What you feel, what you tolerate, what you keep choosing, even when it hurts. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Because seeing the truth doesn't mean you're ready to leave. Sometimes, you see everything clearly and you still stay. And that raises a much harder question. Why? Why do you stay when you already know? Why does something that hurts you still feel so hard to let go of? That answer is deeper than the relationship itself. And in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening inside you that keeps you stuck, even when you see the truth, because it's not what you think. If that question hit you, watch this next video.